Hey everyone, this is David from XWing Versus, and I want to talk about my Major Vendor build and how it turned out for me in a recent game that I had against my friend Lance. And I also flew him with Deathwing and a TIE Punisher and Tomax Bren. There we go. Or wait, there we go. There's the camera, actual camera, and Tomax Bren supporting him. And in that build, I had Deathwing with a trajectory simulator, unguided rockets, bomb generator, and twin ion engines just in case he needs that. Because that makes all of his bank maneuvers green, so it makes him a bit more maneuverable and easier to clear stress and get out of a nasty situation. And Tomax Bren simply with unguided rockets and crack shot, which is usually pretty good, and lightweight frame. And the reason I said usually with Tomax Bren is simply put that game did not go well for me. And actually my major vendor part of my build severely underperformed. And I'm just creating this video to kind of explain why that happened and why I still think this build is strong, but also to talk a little bit about a really good scum build that my friend made and was actually really fun to fly against. It was one of perhaps the funnest build I've ever flown against, and that usually doesn't happen. But yeah, I'm really glad to say it was still a really fun game. And so kind of what the setup looks like, there wasn't kitchen stuff in the background. Well, it's okay because I have the power of editing on my side. And we're back. I'm back. So fix up the area. And so this is what it looked like, the initial setup, when I was playing that game against my friend Lance. And I'll move you guys a bit closer here so you can see. I didn't bother bringing up the templates, but this was Dace Bonearm. His ability is he can receive a stress token to deal an ionized opponent one damage, and then he wasn't flying Captain Nim, thank goodness, because I hate Captain Nim, but he was flying Sol Sixa, who can curve his bombs, meaning he can use the one hard templates instead of just the one straight. And he also was flying Captain Jostero, which I thought was interesting. And Captain Jostero, basically, his ability is whenever an opponent receives damage from that was outside of an attack, for example, like from a bomb, is the best example of that, then he may make an attack against that enemy ship. And so my opponent, he initially laid his ships out like this, and so I was a little befuddled. And so I just set up like so with Deathwing and Tomax Bren, just prepared to go kind of straight at him. And then I was also planning to do the same thing with Major Vendor, and this was my first mistake. I should have, instead of placing him here, I should have placed him like here. I should have placed him over here, so that way he could have gone out closer to them and flanked them. But I didn't do that, so I missed that opportunity. And then so what happened next was, there we go. So he went too forward with all of his guys, and then with my guys, I jutted Deathwing forward, 3 slight, boosted. I just moved Tomax Bren like 1 or 2. I think it was probably 1, so it was probably like there. And then with Major Vendor, I went 3 and then another 3, and that's nowhere accurate. But this is just meant to be a representation to give you guys an idea of what I was doing. And I was not able to target lock any of his guys because I was just too far out of range, which I found is very important in my build, is to be able to get that first strike off when they're not expecting it. And in this case, not only could I not get it, but as you guys can see, I'm coming at these guys head on. And so next turn, it looked, oops, sorry, I just kicked the camera tripod. Sol Sixa was here, Captain Jostero there we go. He moves, so he was right there, and then Dace was right here, and I was actually able to throw a bomb about here, so that was good for me. And then all of my guys were like right here, and yeah, Death Rain definitely had a shot with unguided rockets because I gave him a focus token, and then Tomax, I don't remember if he was able to shoot, but most importantly, what happened was with Major Vinder, and I like got here, and then I decided to slam again, and so I ended up like right here, and so basically everybody and their dog could shoot at me, and in the first round of the game, he went from a full 7 health to down to only 2 health. So I took 5 damage. And that's all because I made the mistake of just going straight at him instead of choosing the other side and trying to go on the flank. And the main reason I did that is because actually our playmat, and it wasn't this one, this one, of course, as you may have noticed, is not an actual playmat. It's just something, when I first started getting into the game, my wife and I made, and so just something I could use since I didn't want to pay $40 to get an actual one. Anyway, but yeah, what I should have done was start out with Major Vinder like over here, slam, slam, and then that way I would have been able to hit them when they were like still over here, and I would have been able to deal damage early on. And he didn't bring a twin laser turret, so I actually would have received like almost no damage because of it. And yeah, so just a bit more about my opponent's build. It was actually really cool. So it all revolved around ionization, and then with Dace Bone Arm being able to deal 1 damage for a stress token because they were ionized, and then that would allow Captain Jostero to attack because that was damage dealt where there was no actual dice rolled. And so it was actually pretty nifty build, and at the end of the day I was able to kill 2 of his ships, Captain Jostero and Captain Sol Sixa, but yeah, I wasn't able to kill Dace, and at the end it was really funny. My TIE Punisher, which is very slow, like, look at this thing. It's like a giant-sized, super-sized TIE bomber. These things aren't very maneuverable, if you didn't already know that. And it actually was able to outmaneuver the Skirk bomber. It was pretty hilarious. You guys need to see it for yourself. But yeah, and so that was that game. I still think Major Vinder with the OS1 title loadout, again with the extra missile and torpedo slot, is still very viable. Just remember, like I did not, to come at your opponents from a flank or an angle and not head on. And then also another thing I learned is the what's it called? Gunboat is very weak. Like ionization can really trip you up because you're not able to get out of there as fast as you would like, and your opponent knows where you're going to be because you're ionized. And so yeah, that really tripped me up, and then it was made even worse because not only was I ionized, but I received a stress token because of a crit I received. So basically, what I learned from my Major Vinder, Death Rain, and Tomax Bren build was don't fly Major Vinder, head on to opponents, stick with a flank, and I was still pleased with my performance of Death Rain and Tomax Bren. The important thing with Death Rain is to, in the early game, jet ahead to where your opponent is going to be, so that way you can start throwing bombs in that general area where they're going to be, and so that way you can get like tons of free damage out there, and then use Tomax Bren. I usually like to place Tomax Bren behind Death Rain, just so that way he'll probably be able to have like a range 2 or 3 shot, so he's a little bit more protected that way, but it's just important that he can get that attack and still be able to use crack shot, so that way he can cancel any evades the other guys use. And yeah, so that is what I learned in my little battle, and I wanted to share that with you guys. and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next part.